hand side you will have the problem description. Along with the problem descriptions, we will also mention one or two examples, as you can see it here. Here the problem statement is very simple, wherein I have to find sum of all numbers in a given array. And this is an example. For example, I had an array with 5 elements with value as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I need to return is the sum of all these elements, which is 15 in this case. Now let's start implementing it. So what you have to do it is you have to solve this problem by writing the suitable code. In terms of programming language, you can just choose any one of these. All the different options will be available in the drop down. But make sure that after reading the problem statements and after looking at the language options, you choose the one option wisely. The reason being, if you partially coded your problem statement in C++, and let's say if you switch to Java, whatever code that you had written in C++ will be lost and forever. So you won't be able to recover it. So make sure that after reading the problem statements, make yourself comfortable with the language that you want to use to solve this problem. You can use any of this programming language, and as long as you answer it correctly, you will get full marks. In this case, let's say I'm choosing the Java as a language. Again, here as you see, it displays a message indicating that are you sure that you want to change your language, and if you do so, you will lose all of your existing code. But since I have coded anything, that should be fine. So I'm just clicking on proceed. And now here you can see you have a function which just has name of the function, which is find sum, 2 input parameters. So in this input parameters, you will actually get your test data, and it returns one output. Depending on the problem statements, this number of name of the functions, number of parameters and values in these functions, as well as the output of this function will change. What you have to do it is you have to correctly implement this function, and you have to return your answer as a return statement. Again, please make sure that you return your answer as a return statement. If you are just logging your answer using system.out.println, or if you are just printing your output in the console, the evaluation engine or the test engine will not give you any marks. You have to return the correct answer as a return statement. Okay, and let's just quickly show it how it looks like. Another important thing, as you can see it here, there is a statement called throw new unsupported exception, which is added by the engine just to or it is just the dummy statement which is added by the evaluation engine. But when you actually write the code, make sure that you remove this statement. Okay, you either comment it out or you remove it completely. But make sure that if you show any statement like throw some unsupported exceptions or anything equivalent which is added by the engine by default, you have to remove them. Okay, cool. So I have removed them, and now let me just try to implement this. So here I have to compute the sum of an array. I'm just gonna write the logic to compute the sum, nothing fancy as such. All right, and then I will just return the result. Again, as I said, you have to return the statement with the correct answer, then only your code will be evaluated against the predefined test cases, and you will get the expected mark if your code is correct. Once this is done, you can just use this button compile and test, which will compile your code and also runs the various test cases. Alright, so as you see it here, there are two set of test cases. For first set of test cases, this is for your reference. So here you can actually see the input, the expected output, and the actual output. Here actual output is the output returned by the program that you had implemented. And since expected and actual output are matching, that means test case 1 is passed. Similarly for test case 2 also, my expected and actual outputs are matching, and hence it is passed. Apart from this, there are few other test cases, as you can see it here. This test case will be used to evaluate your code and grade your code, or to assign marks to your code. There will be multiple test cases depending on the problem, and for this test case you will only be able to see the output, whether it is passed or failed. You won't be able to see the input data for this test case, because this test case we are using it to actually evaluate your code, and hence we cannot reveal the test data. All right. Again, if you click on the code, you will get back to the code, and let's say for whatsoever reason, if you feel that okay, my logic is not working as expected and I want to put some console output just to do some debugging, troubleshooting, that's perfectly fine. For example, here I want to log the current total just as an example. So you can add as many system out statement as you like, maybe let's say one at the final total. Again, this test engine will perfectly accept all the system out, whatever you have printed. Make sure that you do not have any compilation errors. But importantly, you have to return the correct output as a return statement. I can put as many system out as I like as I mentioned here, which I will use for debugging or troubleshooting purpose. But I have to make sure that I am returning the expected output. All right. And if you run it one more time, and if you go to your default test case, and then here you should be able to see your console as you can see it here. So for test case 1, it has displayed these 4 or 5 messages. Similarly for test case 2 also, it has displayed whatever system out that you have printed. All right. So again, as I mentioned, you can just add the system out, but make sure that you return the output correctly. Another important thing, and we often see that people are making mistake, is while solving this problem, you have to only implement the logic inside this function. You do not have to write the main class. You do not have to write the main method. You do not have to read from the console. So please make sure that you are not spending time in writing main. You are not spending time in reading from the console. You have to just implement the function which is given to you without any code. All right. It may happen that while implementing the function, probably you felt that I want to add some another private method to solve this problem. For example, let's say simple sum or simple. Let's say I just want to write another function because my problem statement is complex and probably I cannot write entire logic here. So I just want to, let's say, introduce one more private function, and this is perfectly fine. Let's say I am returning x plus y as an output, and probably here I am just using this new function, let's say sum of total comma. So instead of doing total plus input, I am just calling this function. Otherwise, there is no change in the logic. All right. And if I run it one more time, yeah, and as you can see, and as I expected, it successfully executed all the test cases because I did not change the logic. I just changed the implementation of my code just to maybe make it more simpler or to refactor it. All right. So again, you can add other private methods, other functions as you like to solve your problem. That's perfectly fine. But importantly, you have to return your correct output as a return statement, and you do not have to write main. You do not have to read from the console. Okay. Cool. Of the test. Besides this timer, you will see a button called OK, but in your scenario, you will see a button called finish test. Please make sure that you do not click on this button until you are really done with the testing. Again, I'm just repeating it to make sure that please do not click on this button with label as finish test. You should click on that finish test button only when you are done with the complete test.